I'll call the meeting to order, and Victoria, you wondered if being an alternate whether you'd ever get me a voting member. You were a voting member tonight. Dom and you and I make up a quorum. So the agenda, the consideration of the minutes. I saw minutes.
I sent a copy to you.
Yeah.
That's for Trace.
There you go. I'm going to move that we accept the minutes as written. Okay, seconded.
Second.
All those in favor? There, good. So we've got two items on the agenda tonight. The McNeil family is number one. Gary, you have the floor. Why are you here? Oh, David's here.
Here he is.
Dear Grace, you're voting on this tonight too. Yeah, thanks. Oh, baby.
Okay, so, my land is on map 7, lot 27, Baldwin tax map. And back in 2001, it consisted of approximately 104 acres. In 2001, we transferred 10 acres to 3 of our children, and this map that I gave you reflects that. So when you...
What year was that again? I'm trying
2001.
That was 74 acres. Did you say,
No, I gave, my 104 acres is what
104.
total I had, or approximately. There may be an acre one way or the other, but, and so...
And then in 2001, you gave...
10 acres. 31 acres. A total of 31. So it's 10 acres approximately to each child.
Great.
Okay? And so if you look at the map, on the right-hand side, where you'll see it says McNeil Road.
Yep.
Yep. And then coming down McNeil Road from Brown Road, you take a right, they put in a road called Hummingbird Lane.
So this sort of curvy thing is Hummingbird Lane?
That's right, yep.
I've been to your house once, so I don't have a real clear picture.
Sure. Okay.
Go slowly for all of us.
I am, you know, we all seem to be reaching that age, so.
Not me, just, I was worried about Victoria.
Oh, I see. So if you follow Hummingbird Lane and you get up to family lot, number 2.
Yep.
That address is given as 3 Hummingbird Lane. That's Jeffrey and Rebecca Stocks.
Okay.
And lot 3 is Andrew and Tammy McNeil, and that is 5 Hummingbird. And then the next one over would be Jennifer and Anthony Valentine, and that's 7 Hummingbird.
Is that Sam lot 3, 4, right?
Yes.
4.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so, sharing that information with you specifically so that you could tie in to this one, and where you see this here, at the end of Hummingbird Lane,
Yep.
a little bit of a cul-de-sac, that's where Hummingbird Lane ends.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep, you got a hammerhead there.
Now, if you look at this one here, which I'll have the surveyor do, now this is that same area here. Mm-hmm. And so the plan was to extend Hummingbird Lane down past the rock wall, okay? So that's where you are with this one, just so that you can tie into that.
Yeah, yeah,
From
okay.
there, that's an
Yeah.
extension from there,
Oh, and take a turn,
yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
So, that was the intent, and to give them, I think it comes out to approximately 3 or 4 acres of land. And what we were doing before we did the deed, wanted to make sure that that part of the land would accommodate, perk test.
Yeah.
And so I didn't wanna give him X number of acres, and then I said, well, we can't build on it, Grampy, and so now we've got, so that's what we were trying to do, is give the description first, and then do the deed. So that's where we're at. I think Tyler spoke with your code enforcement officer,
okay,
and he brought up the fact that we should come and have a meeting because, I gotta share, I have a little bit of concern, because here's Jennifer and Anthony Valentine, who have not built on their land, and so right now, you have two properties on Hummingbird Lane. And I think when you and I spoke, Joe, you said that when you add the third or whatever, that it becomes a subdivision,
yeah,
and you can only have 2 homes on a private road.
yes.
Is that essentially what you were saying?
Yeah, it's in the subdivision ordinance under roads, and I think it's worth looking up, just so, you know.
Yep.
And it's in the definitions section, last I saw, it may have gone somewhere else. Oh boy, can't find it right off. Of course, I should have done this instead of having a little bit extra to eat tonight at supper.
Could we get a copy of that when you, could you photocopy that or something?
I think it's on the web.
Really?
Yeah,
Under the town of Baldwin or?
Town of Baldwin
Like a
subdivision
download that whole-
ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, because I was looking under the
I did small.
land use, I went through the land use manual, and I also.
Road, definition of road and subdivision,
I got subdivision.
And I couldn't seem to find anything on the subdivision, so that's the reason I was asking for.
yeah, you guided us to it
If you
before.
go to page 5 and
Yep.
6,
Yeah,
5 and 6, I got 6.
yes, that talks about frontage, and on page 6, paragraph 4, at the top of the page, it said a private way created by a deeded right of way, which is a minimum of 60 feet and serves no more than 2 lots, neither of which are part of the subdivision.
See, my question on that, I guess, is
You got it?
I have the one page.
arbitrarily, how do we determine if we'll only accommodate 2 lots? And is it because whoever wrote that up had 2 hands and 2 feet and said, oh, well, we'll say 2 lots? I mean,
well,
I don't wanna be flip about it,
no, that's fine.
but when you're coming down, when you're talking about the Baldwin, apparently if it's a town road, then
Yeah.
it's not an issue. It's only when it's a private road, right?
Well, so Gary, I don't wanna shock you, but you're not gonna live forever.
Are you sure?
And your family is wonderful, you all get along.
Yeah,
The planning board has to think 50, 100 years from now,
that's terrible.
you know?
That is terrible.
I probably won't be around either.
Hmm.
But we wanna make sure that whatever happens works. I mean, you as a selectman know that you can have problems with roads because people didn't think it through.
Yeah, I think that's overkill,
Private roads, well, it's part of the ordinance, I
Yeah.
can't help whether it makes sense.
and that's
or
why I was
not.
asking is, what would you have to do? Would you have to go through the appeals board, or would, if you got a copy of that, would you have to, wind up getting, a number of, signatures to put it, how would you change that?
And are we
So-
jumping the gun by saying it's a no, because I'm his son, Andy? The question is, can we extend Hummingbird Lane, which is my personal road and my sister's road, we put that
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
we extend this and have him have his lot down into his field? That's the whole question.
So what you can do is you can, go to the code enforcement officer and you ask for a permit to build a house, and he refuses you, and you go to the appeals board.
That's how, so it ultimately is going to the appeals board.
Can we speak
But that's
about
the
that now? He's
mechanism
right
to
here.
get there. Excuse me?
Would it be denied?
It has to be based on the ordinance.
It has to be denied?
That's the way I
With,
read it.
my question is with, say even, okay, we fall into the subdivision, what does that entail?
Yeah, I mean, what,
So what it entails is here, it's a minor subdivision, but what it does is it commits you to your property lines, and in order to change your property lines, you'd have to come back and open up the subdivision and revisit it.
so can we have a subdivision if we wanted a
Yeah,
subdivision?
sure.
So what's the cost for that?
You need a survey, I mean, look
We
at,
have a
look
survey.
in here, under Article 6, minor subdivision. The cost is $300 per lot or acre,
Okay, a one-time, $300?
one time.
Okay, so that's
That's
no
the
big deal.
application fee,
Just for Tyler's, the Tyler's lot that he's doing?
for the whole thing, for the whole subdivision.
No.
So you've already taken 2 lots
Yeah.
out,
Yep,
that doesn't have to be part of the subdivision,
Okay.
in my opinion. And, so you were just looking at the rest of the land that your father owns,
yep,
okay?
yep,
So you've only got one piece you're taking out.
correct.
If you want to include the rest of the 70 acres, you can do that, you can divide that up at the same time.
That's up to my father. I'm
Yeah.
concerned about this law.
You.
So,
Yeah.
my question, once again, coming back to my eldest daughter,
Yep,
who that's been lying dormant,
yep,
since 2001.
yep.
If she decided tomorrow that she wanted to build on that, it would be the same thing as with Tyler. No, it wouldn't be in compliance, so when you're doing this subdivision, are you including her in that subdivision part?
We're including what you put in the subdivision.
I see.
So what was the section that we're concerned about in terms of the road?
On page 6,
Page 6, top of the page.
I've got a huge map, but it's probably just something covers it.
What's the definition we're looking at? I just want to.
help us out again, Don, if you could, either Don, both Don, but
All right, so what exactly,
What's the problem? Why can't they do it?
because it says conserve no more than 2 lots, and they're
On a
already
private
2
road.
lots on the property, so private road.
This might be a dumb question, but is there any loophole to be, it's an extended driveway?
Well, the only thing I wanted to say in terms of, either bastardizing the system or whatever, but when you come down here.
Slow down.
slow down, yeah.
Okay, so,
it exactly.
where does it say no more than 2 lots?
It's on the top of the page, there's a number 4.
Tell me what you're looking at.
Private right of way, minor right of way,
Serving no more than 8 dwelling units.
What's that definition of it?
That's what I was, 8
That's on the
dwelling
road.
units. That's what I was, what is 8?
Wait, Gary, let's all stay have the same conversation, just so so he's looking under frontage. So under frontage, so let's go back to F, on the definitions. Is that in the subdivision, or is that in the land use?
Land use?
That's in the land.
Land use.
Okay, it's a different book, I was in the subdivision.
Oh, sorry. That's easy to do.
With my seat.
I'll take my own seat. I think that's.
So we're under F for frontage.
In the definitions.
Yeah. So page 5, going into page 6. So frontage, linear distance, the following ways shall constitute legal access to a lot along which frontage should be measured. Number 4.
Number 4.
So number 4, a private way created by a deeded right-of-way, which is a minimum of 60 feet in width, which serves no more than 2 lots, neither of which shall be part of a subdivision, which meets all the requirements for the district it's located. So what it's saying is a private right-of-way will give you the frontage, right? Is that? For 2 lots. So you could have a private road and you can meet the frontage requirements on for only 2 lots.
On a private way. So my question is, once again, getting back to this thing in terms of, bless my grandson at loophole, but I would say in terms of bastardizing the system, but when you're looking at this here, and we're talking about going down, if you're up here on Hummingbird Lane, right at the corner where my son's is, whether you do a roundabout, with an offshoot from that, either down this way, and that becomes, if you don't wanna say Hummingbird Lane anymore, then Tyler's Way or Tyler's Road, and when you get down over the hill here.
You're trying too hard here.
If you can make another route.
Is McNeil Road a private road?
No.
No, even though the potholes and up on the top of the hill makes you think it is, it's a town road.
So could you, I'm just looking at this map, could you come off McNeil Road and go down?
It would not be realistic.
It goes straight
Because
through.
from McNeil Road comes down into my lower field, past my house, so to make that,
To
extend
extend poles
McNeil
and
Road,
road and everything, it would cost
Chestnut
about
Tree, I
$50,000 to
mean,
$80,000 more than it would just to extend.
you not,
Okay.
it's just, it's not,
That's fine,
it's not
I mean, we're
feasible.
just trying to help you out here, so, okay.
No, exactly,
Okay,
but
so
you know, back in 18, whatever, it actually did go down through to the town farm road,
Okay.
right through the field.
It actually used to be a town road.
And it got discontinued.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do a second private road off the first private road, like, I don't think you can just change the name, that doesn't really, it's creative, but it doesn't.
And that's absolutely fine. The point is, can we extend Hummingbird down and put this lot in? And if it's just a matter of the cost of, it's gonna cost more to do it. We're not worried about that. We need the town's approval to do it. There's no other houses around it.
So you go with the subdivision. If you make it a
That's what I'm saying.
subdivision,
Let's make the subdivision.
Yeah.
there you go. You know, then it's not a problem.
And
Okay.
the only stipulations with that is you're saying $300 for that lot. It's nothing with the remaining of the whole road, nothing has to be done to, make it a subdivision road technically, it's just, it all stays as is.
That I couldn't tell you. That we have to think about.
The road shouldn't have.
How passable the road is.
Well, see, what our thought is that extending Hummingbird Lane down into the lower field and turning it up to his lot where his driveway would go from there. Hummingbird Lane would just sit there idle until the next grandchild, and then it would be their responsibility to extend that. So if you're talking about a subdivision, but there's not a problem with that, then that would be the way to go.
Yeah.
That would be the way to go. We're just looking for the smoothest avenue to get his house in.
So we don't like to, much as we love you, we don't like to see people twice here. You know, and this is the problem.
You question me with that, you know.
What?
You question me, you say that.
I'm happy to have done that, Gary. It makes my evening. We like to see people come in and get whatever it is done.
That's why
You
we're
know,
here, that's why we're here.
Yeah, and so I would urge you to think ahead, look at your land, and think now how you might want to divide it up.
Yep.
you know,
Because
so.
with this, you're saying like with the subdivision, it's gonna lock them at 5 years, right? Is that what it is?
Forget the 5 years. We're not doing 5 years anymore if we're in a subdivision.
Okay.
That's, 5 years has been made into some kind of something to worship, and it's not. It's a particular thing, it's not a general.
Yep.
You can come here, you can divide off, and you'd have to divide off any lot beyond these first two would have to be included.
But is a transfer to a relative,
Yeah, that's not a problem. It's exactly, it's a transfer to a relative, but that doesn't affect the street.
yeah,
So
no,
they-
this is complex.
But,
Okay, so I've got a wrinkle in the ointment for you. When you look at that right there, it says family lot 1,
yep,
and it's just part of my overall plan.
yep,
I haven't put any deed from me to Brenda or whatever, description wise, it's approximately 5 acres.
yep,
And like I mentioned to you when I was talking on the phone, that
yep,
our thought was we're old and decrepit and we can't move, and if we decide to go out of the farmhouse,
Yep.
double wide or something up there, that lot would come before their 2 lots, so is that an issue? Is
Yep.
that something we need to deal with now as part of the,
yep. You've got 2 lots with dwelling units coming off of Hummingbird Lane.
right,
Any further lots serviced by Hummingbird Lane means you've got to have a subdivision.
okay?
Or you could, of course, get the town to accept the road and do maintenance on Hummingbird Lane.
I doubt that they would do that, although Hummingbird Lane is in better shape than McNeil.
Oh, yeah, we take care of our road.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm being
subdivision.
flipped there, as you know, but, I mean,
Yeah. So that's fine, is that particular, parcel of land should be
Yep.
included as part of the subdivision?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so David, what issues are you finding over there? You seem perplexed over there.
He's trying to help you out, if I know.
I know you, that's why I'm asking.
Well, you need to read the subdivision ordinance to see what it requires.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what Hummingbird Lane looks like, its width and stuff like that, but the subdivision ordinance has specific requirements. So, for the road in particular. So, the problem is once you go into a subdivision, so the question is which land it will be part of the subdivision. That's A. Because once you go into a subdivision, you get locked up a little bit, like you can't do as much with your land, you can't move it around as easily, you can't parse it out as easily into smaller lots. And you're also accepting kind of these minimum standards for certain things like the road and accessibility. Like, I can already see, I mean, can a fire truck get down there and get into that hammerhead?
Absolutely.
Is that big enough?
I welcome anybody in this room to come check out our road. It was just redone last year. It's a 2-lane road.
Yeah, no, it's not, I'm not concerned it's good or bad. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like I'm just looking at costs,
Yep.
so if you move it down, you know, we get worried about access. So, you know, is it wide enough to get 2 fire trucks through there? You know, these are the things
make
that
sure
I'm
that-
thinking about.
If you look at that cul-de-sac, you're looking at, that road is going through that cul-de-sac, so it's gonna be a 2-lane road through
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
That cul-de-sac won't exist anymore.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, if you do a subdivision, where are your costs gonna come from, in terms of the requirements of the subdivision being put on top of what's really not a subdivision? I mean, it's not a subdivision because it's divided up among family. The subdivision ordinance exempts family transfers from the subdivision ordinance, so, like, the only reason you need the subdivision is because you can't get the frontage any other way.
Right.
The question is, I think, is could you get an exemption through the appeals process to make a lot of these issues go away?
They created their own problem.
Get a waiver on it.
Yeah, but they can't, right?
They created the problem. like, they created the private road, and so, like, what is the standard for the appeals
okay,
board?
right.
It's not just, does it make sense, but like, there's a standard that the appeals board has to follow. And if you create your own harm, you don't get an exemption necessarily, like, Baldwin's a small town, so is the video on?
Well, I take offense to the fact you said we created that problem, because we've been married 52 years, we have 3 kids, and they had and it just happens, David, it happens.
No, I don't mean that problem, that's a good problem, I know most of your family, but I mean, like, what you're saying to the appeals board, if you went to the appeals board, is the rules don't work in my situation, I should get relief. But you're the one who put in Hummingbird Lane, and you're the one who wants to take more lots off of it, so it's kinda like you created your own problem. It's like building a house, really close to the line of your property line, and you want to get an exemption from the distance to the property line, but you built the house there, so, like, shame on you.
Well, I was a bit naive, because I remember being on the board, and like I was talking to Joe last night, when the selectmen came up with a number of building permits, and you own property in town or wherever, family or whatever, you were exempt from going through the process to get a permit.
Yeah.
So I was of the belief that it was the same thing with, the road. We didn't have to have just 2 houses. Figured, we're good, it's family, we're putting in the road, we're in compliance, and now we can allocate the land properly. And so I was surprised, and Tyler said, "Oh, Brampton, we got a problem." I said, "What do you mean?" And the code enforcement officer says, "We're not gonna be in compliance." I go, "Wow."
Yeah.
So,
I
that's
mean,
why
it
we're
seems like
here.
your options are, you could try to change the wording of the ordinance to say something like, except for if everybody's related, or, you could try to change the wording of the ordinance, which would be taking it to the selectmen would put it on the town warrant, and in March it would be voted on whether it's changed or not. Typically, the town doesn't seem to like changes for just one person, like they seem to frown upon that.
Yeah.
Then, Joe, what do you think, the subdivision is the other way?
Yeah, to me, it's difficult, it costs a little money, but, I don't see another way around it.
Or the town or you could ask the town to accept Hummingbird Lane,
Yeah,
or part of Hummingbird Lane. Like, you could get it past the first property.
you gotta pass the first property, you get the third property.
Exactly.
When he wants to get a 4th property in, he's gotta extend the road.
I'm not saying it's easy, I'm just saying that a town could accept the road.
Yep, yep.
So let me ask you a question. This is a little bit off the subject here, but what about Pearl Drive? What is the status of Pearl Drive? Is that a town road, or is that a private road?
I would ask the selectmen.
Believe it's a private road.
It's a private road. And how many houses are in
And
there?
as you know, the Pearl Drive, I hear, you were around, I wasn't even living in Baldwin when that was put up, right?
Yeah.
But as you know, that's one of the reasons why we have a land use ordinance in town.
Yep, I understand that.
And that's what we're trying to avoid.
Sure. But we're not moving out under the cloak of darkness and, throwing in X number. We're being upfront
And that's great,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, not everybody deals with this that way. I understand.
But no, I think, backtracking like you told Andy, if subdivision is the way to go, then that's.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question, and this
This
is
is
just a
Rebecca.
hypothetical.
Stop.
So Tyler definitely has a spot picked out where he wants to go off Hummingbird, that's great. If it were to change, because we're gonna be in the same situation with our son, he's gonna want land and he's gonna build. But you possibly have 2 more grandsons who are gonna wanna build up there. Would it be easier to put a different private road in off Dad's other area of land to do a different subdivision? Or is it gonna be the same messy situation to go off Hummingbird Lane now?
It all depends on how many houses, how many lots are off that other property.
So this other road you're talking about,
It doesn't exist yet.
right, if it comes off of Hummingbird Lane.
No.
You haven't changed anything, if it
She's
comes
saying
off.
it comes off,
It would come off of,
So this
Comes
this
off-
trouble only matters with Hummingbird Lane, correct? Any other part of his 75 acres is
off McNeil.
If we
Any
wanted to put a
road.
different road.
Like, a different road would be off of McNeil Road, it wouldn't be a part of Hummingbird Lane.
If your private road comes off a town road, you can put two houses on it.
And his will come off McNeil Road.
Yeah,
But
that's
then
Greenwood,
would it be
which
easier
is
to
a
start
town road.
subdivision?
So that's not a problem.
Yeah.
So, for them, yes, I mean, no.
And if you're going to have multiple properties in the future, it would be easiest if you put that all now on a map and so you had all the lots on one subdivision, so you don't have to come back and say, oh, we want to extend the road and we want to increase the number of lots. The problem is once you get to a certain number of lots, you get into what's called a major subdivision, and the rules are more stringent and the costs are more expensive.
Well, see, the problem that you're dealing with is the topography of the land. So in addition to trying to come up with the lots, you've got to try and, I mean, it's like with both Rebecca and Andy, they've got 10 acres, but is any other portion other than where their house is buildable, or maybe not, because there's so much ledge and.
See, this is exactly why we should think the whole thing through now. You know, rather than do it piecemeal and then come back to Tyler and say, oh, we need to take 3 acres away from you because we need access over here, or whatever, I mean.
No, and absolutely, I get it, because obviously for Isaac and even Bryce or whoever, for the extension off of Hummingbird, running straight, and realistically, I think that's the most buildable area you have is in that lower field. But, I don't think, obviously Bryce, I don't think is anytime ready, and, I mean, he might be ready in the next 5 years, that's why that number was in my head, but.
Yeah.
I think realistically, like, the best bet for this is subdivision, obviously, and just running, regardless, it's gonna be my house at the end, and if anything, what is the house limit, I guess you guys are saying, for it to become a
Minor subdivision, what is the maximum?
It's 5 lots.
5?
So we get 2 on it now. Well, part of the problem with.
Well, that's.
Well, now you don't, that's probably
No,
1,
even if he
2,
wants to go off
3,
McNeil, that's a whole
4,
separate story.
5, you already have 5.
Yeah. 5 lots, 2 houses.
Yeah, no.
Right, houses, for the subdivision ordinance, it's all about lots,
Okay.
because we assume you're gonna sell them, I mean, that's not.
David, they have, Gary has split off 3 lots so far. Well, it's actually 5 lots so far.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
And those have all gone past the 5-year rule.
So what are you gonna make part of the subdivision?
So what you're gonna make part of the subdivision is you're gonna bring in,
All those
farm lot 4, farm lot 2,
another lot, right?
and the rest of the 74 acres. And make that part of the mother lot, so then you can extend the road and plot with the road, but that's the way to get around that.
Yeah.
Anything that's been divided up, but then if you want to
No, that's.
build on any of those lots that you're saying have been around for 5 years, you gotta make them part of the,
That's all.
you can excuse 2 though from that, can't you?
Right.
So you can excuse 2 and all the rest has to be part of it. Whichever 2 you wanna choose to keep out.
Well, like I said, one hasn't even been deeded in description.
Yep.
Other than the fact it's sitting there at 5 acres.
Well, it's
and
got a
that's
deed and it's yours.
And it's part of the full parcel. And then
Yeah.
4, my oldest daughter hasn't done anything with hers, but you wanna put that in as subdivision so that when she does,
Yep.
it's not an issue. But now here's another question for you. So the way I'm set up right now, so that I could pay my taxes and not have to move out of town, is being an open
space.
Yeah,
So when all of the subdivision and stuff, does that come out of open space? We haven't, if it hasn't been developed, it hasn't done anything, it's only on paper that we're talking about subdivision, so when they do what they do. But is that gonna affect my taxes?
I don't know what the open space,
Options, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's, I don't know what the penalties are, but it's the same as taking land out of the tree road.
Because like with him, we obviously list 3 acres or 4 acres that he winds up with, then I come back to see Debbie and say, this was previously an open space. So sit down and run your calculator and tell us what we need to pay.
Yeah.
So that's gonna, that you're gonna wanna do, you're gonna wanna do less than, you don't wanna get the penalty.
so the question is, can you have land in a subdivision in open space? And I don't have the answer to that. I mean, that's.
That would be my only thing is,
Yeah.
while we're trying to solve all these problems, well, now am I gonna create one for me?
Yeah, so,
I told you to.
the guy, yes,
We're just, I mean, I've watched this process happen a number of times in the last couple of years.
sure,
And when a person subdivides their property, there's the whole thing that he owns, right?
Yeah.
And then the pieces that he breaks off as lots. The definition in the past that I've seen here is that the whole thing is part of the subdivision.
yes.
So, I don't know that you always require them to take it out of tree growth, just because
Right.
it's in part of the subdivision. But if you come back and do anything to any of that part in the future, you gotta go back for a subdivision revision review. So all of your land has been, the process before is, you gotta come back every time you wanna break off another one, you do another subdivision.
But that's been in cases where they haven't been outside the 5 years.
No, it's been, so we just did the guy down over the hill by the river. It's been more than 5 years.
Down.
Hummingbird Lane.
So, for
Yeah.
5 years,
Down, I don't wanna know anything about that. I still don't agree with that.
So you can, I'm getting, this is getting, too many moving parts for me.
And I'll throw one more in.
Okay, thank you.
Next year, in I think July first, there's a whole set of new rules about housing and the number of houses you can have on a lot.
Yep,
Because of accessory dwelling units and whatnot, you might be able to build a couple of houses, depending on what size you want to say.
as long as they were on pre-existing lots with pre-existing houses there.
Yeah, it's like the tiny lot or whatever.
Yeah,
you-
yeah.
And so you, think about it.
So
Well,
what
why wouldn't the town accept the road? I guess I don't understand like why that's not.
You generally don't accept roads recently because of the cost of maintaining a road.
What if they agree to do a like maintenance agreement with you where they maintain the road?
I think we're losing track.
Ben
I don't want the
Thompson.
town to take over my road. We don't care about the money, we don't care about the fines, we're gonna pay all his taxes. We need the okay to extend my road,
Yeah,
this is the whole point. I
It's
don't
just
care
getting
about the money.
It's getting complex though, so we're trying to figure out a way not to get super complex, but.
so the person to ask about the open space question is Ben Thompson, and in the
Yes.
selectmen's
I've
room,
talked with them, yeah,
ask him that question.
okay, yeah.
He'd be the authoritative,
Sure,
and I'd like to know the answer
yeah,
when you
yeah,
get it.
yeah, I've dealt with him in the past on
Yeah.
that, so.
I mean, you all can do whatever you wanna do, like,
Well,
you're.
no, we can't, or we wouldn't be here.
We want the okay to do what we wanna do.
Come on now.
Within the rules, I mean,
Yeah.
like, if you want to do a subdivision, you know, you read the rules and you figure out what you need to submit, and you submit that, like, we don't do the subdivision. You all do the subdivision and bring it to us, we talk about it and make sure it complies and make sure that there's no issues, and then approve it. So we're not the ones who do the subdivision, it's you who do it. And if you want to do all your plans, for Isaac in the next 5 generations, that's fantastic.
And
If
is
you
there a
just wanna
handbook
do-
on that?
Sorry?
Is there a handbook on that to
There's
help us?
an ordinance, yeah. If you just wanna do one lot and you just bring that to us and say, I'm gonna deal with the rest later,
Yeah,
That's
that's right,
cool,
yeah,
too.
that's what we wanna do, that printout you got, we wanna do that, yeah.
So you have to read the ordinance, and you have to, like, understand all the things that are required,
Okay.
and then, you know, we can show you prior subdivision submissions, on what they submitted, and, you know, you need to do that sort of same basic thing.
What we're going to do when you come in is we're going to go through this paragraph by paragraph. Is this done? Yep. Is that done? Yep. What are we doing with this?
Yeah.
What are we doing with that? We may, you can come to us and ask us to waive particular requirements.
Okay.
We may or we may not waive them, but, in other words, don't be scared because it says something that you say, oh, that's gonna cost me a lot of money. Come in and ask us to waive it. Can only ask, you know,
Yep.
doesn't cost anything.
So while we're all here, I have one question. You say when he subsidizes it, he has to include all of his 70 acres in that, is what you're saying? Because,
That's typically the approach, yeah.
so, the land that I would prefer to have would be off of Hummingbird Lane separate. Would he have to separate that at the same time that he subsidizes the rest of his 75 acres?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what they're saying, the same thing as
He
McNeil.
doesn't have to, that's why I say, you
But it
can
makes
do
it
it.
harder if he doesn't.
Well, no, it just, so it means you have to come back again and ask another planning board, it may not be us, for changes to the subdivision that you've created. And, you know, I think our concern is always, you know, ask for everything up front, because
Yeah.
15 years from now, maybe different laws, maybe different people on the board, and so, you know, be as thoughtful as you can about your application today, so, you know, 10 years from now, you're not coming back and saying, well, actually, we wanna do this, and the laws change, and it says you can't do that.
And laws don't make things, the direction of the world is going, it doesn't get easier to do things, it gets harder as years go by.
So you're gonna call this McNeil Village?
Yeah, why not?
I just
so
sold
you're
my
saying
house
that
in
come
Greenwich.
July,
That's
next
why
year
I
it might be
was always
easier?
coming up here hunting, shooting,
Yeah.
four-wheeler and everything, neighbors, I was on a home association, cookie cutters on stack. Couldn't stand it,
Yeah.
sold it, ready to get up here,
I tried to do it,
and then just, obviously, everything come up when I spoke with,
Don't,
yes. And then, that's why I told Grant the other day, yeah, we need a couple red flags that we gotta address before. And that's the
So
whole thing,
unfortunately-
I had a
Really,
survey, and I wanna be
was we have to
proactive.
subsidize, and we just have
Speak
to.
with everybody before us. He tries to deed it, and all of a sudden, it's stuff popping up everywhere. And I'm just trying to be proactive and get this done the right way.
This is great that you did this and came in and talked to us before you've got a real problem,
Yeah.
and, you know, keep on coming in, it's
So
okay.
unfortunately, you won't get your wish, because you are gonna
Yeah.
see us again, because in order for us to do this right.
Do you have to come, that's.
I know, I can't.
Was it,
Can we start putting this, extending my road, if you give us
It's-
a permit or whatever we need, can we start extending our roads?
As far as I'm concerned, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but as far as I'm concerned, it's your land, if you wanna build a road on it, I don't know why.
There you go.
Have any reason to say anything about that?
Yeah, the only thing that we say is that, you know, if you go to a subdivision, we're gonna have to approve that road.
It'll be, yeah.
So if it's, I mean, you're gonna do it right, but I mean, some people, you know, they try to do it half-assed, and we're like, you know, you spend all that money for nothing because it sucks, and you're gonna have to redo it.
Yeah.
to be a subdivision, do we need, like, not approval, but, like, our sister who lives in Connecticut, does she have to agree to this because she's on that road, or?
Just have Jen call me. No, it's really gonna be the main lot, I think.
It's gonna be, that's what we're talking about, is it has to be included in the subdivision,
Yeah.
for her property down, just simply
Yeah, I
because.
know, I just didn't know if it was something that needed signature to approve,
Oh.
yeah, I agree, or
No.
whatever.
So be clear, if he decides to extend our road tomorrow,
Let's work our way
town's
through
not
this.
gonna,
you know,
I don't know if you're done with
not
the
get excited until we
building a house on it.
Yeah, until you start building, the road is
Right, you can make a road.
Because at that point, you're just maintaining your own land, you're not
People
changing.
can move dirt wherever they want on their property.
As long as you don't truck it
If
off
it looks like
site,
a
you're
road,
fine.
that's-
Yeah.
The only issue would be with that is, if you go into the subdivision and they want the road done differently, you might have to change it.
Right, that's what we were talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so really, it's simple, we just have to read the subdivision ordinance and make sure that we're in compliance.
Yeah, that's your Bible right there.
It's online.
Yeah.
Print her off.
Do we-
Granby, I'll print it off for you.
On the town website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll go home and read
So,
it.
with the camera on, can you tell us what the password is for the town website? So Victoria can get on it right now with her phone.
No, you don't need to.
Oh, I have, the link to the website?
Yeah.
Oh, I have.
No.
All
I'll do
right,
it once.
are we done with this one? Are we done with this one?
Well, I think we are.
I think
You guys,
so. Alright.
are we happy?
Yeah.
So can he go ahead with his, he's already had it surveyed, can they sign this over yet for that lot?
It's the same thing with the road, like whatever you do may or may not be consistent with your
So
ultimate
he
plan.
would use a different surveyor regardless, I'm pretty sure. I went through my wife's side, a family friend did it. So they've been waiting on me to say, I told them, hold off, I gotta speak with the town, blah, 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 but, I mean, I can have them finalize that, and then we obviously work with you guys and the subdivision, go through all that.
Well, yeah, you gotta get your deed with a description, and then
Yeah.
in terms of
Is
getting
there
the
a lot
road
size
in.
minimum, Joe?
Is there a lot size minimum?
I think it's 2 acres.
2 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah, that,
It was.
You aren't about 700 feet.
we gave them 10 acres
No,
just
Ken,
simply
my
because.
surveyor looked it up, and it was 2 acres, and he did that originally,
Yeah.
and he pieced it off a little extra, where it was.
No, it's the Highland area
3.04, I think.
over Saddleback up there that would be required 10, but we're
Yeah.
2 acre.
Yeah, so the lot size is fine, and it is a standard boundary survey, which is what I was looking for. It's got a seal on it, which is important to me. You know, you can push dirt around all you want, you can change titles around, you do have a risk
Yeah.
that something's gonna happen between now and our approval. Some neighbor's gonna come and say something, I don't know what.
It's gonna be Pat Jordan, and he's gonna say, I can't put my cattle down on the Keyway. But I'm ready.
I'll drop off a couple.
Well, we just can't say it's totally cool, because,
Yeah.
there's,
No.
there is risk. You know, whether the risk is like 2% or 80%, there's a risk.
Yeah.
So-
You happen to be in a place where I think the risk is pretty low,
But if we're not leaving here tonight with you guys saying no, there's no options, and no, that's not what I'm hearing. The subdivision is ready to go, and we can go forward with his lot, and he's polish up or clean up Jennifer's lot, because it's lied there dormant, so if she wanted to do something tomorrow, she'd be here having the same conversation that we're having, so that will go away, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Great,
Thank you
Well,
very much.
thank you guys.
thank you, see you again. So, you know, if you want to come in again and talk to us, make sure you get on the agenda, call me or talk to Don.
Yeah, we will.
Either way,
We will, we'll keep the communication lines going.
talk to whoever's chairman at the time.
Great,
Put it that way.
thank you all. Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Yeah, take care.
Gary.
It was good seeing you, thank you.
Mr. Goldstrom.
Doesn't feel lonely in here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That was, it's always pleasant when you see family that gets along and wants to stick together. That's really nice. Yeah. What can we do for you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
You I know. Don I know.
Oh, okay, you want introductions?
David Strzok, yeah, I'm a planning board member who took a bit of a sabbatical, so I wasn't here for the, first few, things.
Oh, y'all can make it.
Victoria.
Victoria? Good to meet
Nice to meet you.
So I'm in here because I went to file appeal with Don, the code enforcement officer. As we talked through my appeal, he basically requested that I come back before the planning board and said, I think we could probably work this all out. If you're willing, just come and ask again.
What is the problem?
So, when I filed my CUP, the reason I filed was so that I could legalize my sign. And as written, I think the intent was to have the specific sign that I have not be allowed. And, after a little bit more, I guess, research on my side, I don't see that the planning board can actually restrict my sign. So I'd like to kind of go through this condition and talk about having it removed.
So that's all you're interested in?
Yep.
That's it? Okay. The problem for us is that if you want to change your conditional use permit, we have to do a whole new conditional use permit. We get rid of the old one and have a new one.
Okay.
And that's the only way we can open it up and do it again.
Okay.
And we cannot make a commitment ahead of time as to what our decisions would be.
Totally understand.
So,
I'm
you're too damn reasonable here, Joel. So what I would propose we do, and this makes life hard on me, is that we have a discussion. And we've had this discussion before, and we'll have it again, and we'll see what everybody's attitude is like at the end of the discussion, and you can make your decision from there. You can't appeal, because I think the time for appeal to the appeals board has run out for you. It's not my decision. Now, that would be theirs. You can file an appeal, but I think they're going to say, yeah, that was June 9, I think you got your, I was just looking through my notes. So, like 6 months has gone by. So, yes, opening it up entirely, starting again from the beginning. I'd like to help you. Unfortunately, we heard in Selectmen's meeting that there was this horrible sign on the corner of Route 5 and 113, and why did the town allow it? And I sat there and I loved it because they were yelling at the selectmen and not me. And so, we have to react to that. And we have put the same restriction about signage on other people. And whether it's been enforced or not is another story. So, going into this, that's what I have to say. I don't know if anybody else on the board wants to address this, or if you want to have your turn of telling us why you should.
I'm not willing to reopen the CUP completely and start over. I feel like we've hashed this enough, so I'll just go with the appeal process. This was, Don was very nice when I came in to talk to him, and it was his suggestion to come in and do this, and honestly, I only did it out of respect for him. So I'm more than happy to just go to the appeal process.
Okay, yeah. If the appeals board is doing their job, they will say, you had however many days it is, 30 days to appeal. And the other problem is, for you to appeal, we have to have denied something, and we didn't deny anything. I don't know how you appeal something if it didn't get denied.
Well, I just let them go through the appeal process and see what happens. Like,
Yeah, there you go. Why should I ask?
That's not our,
Yeah.
that's not our, that's outside of our purview, so.
Yeah.
Lord knows what they do sometimes, but,
Yeah.
I don't know what they do. Like, I've never been to an appeal before hearing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. So sorry we can't, help each other out here or whatever.
Good enough?
All right.
Thank you.
It is nice of you to come in down there, it's like, that's cool.
Good politician over here.
Trying to keep the peace.
I rely on him. To do that.
Anything else?
A motion, to adjourn would be in order.
Nothing from the selectmen? Nothing interesting?
It's always something interesting.
Yeah, well, I haven't been around, so, Giselle always asks me, what's going on? I'm like,
Oh, there's a lot going on, not planning board stuff.
okay, fair enough.
I saw an appeal by the Maine State Police, if anybody knew anything about Seth. I forget his last name. The guy who's stolen from me and stolen from a bunch of people in town, and,
Oh, really?
yeah. He's one of those catch and release, subject to catch and release.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, I just discovered $300 worth of chain and 2 snatch blocks had gone out of my barn. And, you know, I mean, like when it happened, it could have happened any time in the last year. I haven't needed chain and snatch blocks in a while. And you gotta look for it and it's not there and you gotta go buy it. And
That's disheartening.
yeah, it is. I mean, I'd rather just give them the $300. It'd be cheaper for me, you know?
Yeah. All right, move to adjourn.
And Victoria seconds. All those in favor? Here. And Mr. Strock,
Yeah, I saw your,
can you help us out?
yeah. I mean, I don't, I think it's Norm actually, but,
I think Norm's gotten rid of everything, but
so,
I'll try.
we'll figure it out.
Yep, I'm gonna see Norm tomorrow.
I mean, what I did last time, when I did the last group.
Can we cut the tape at this point, please?
No, what I did last time is I went through all the minutes, and then I went through all the emails, and it was all there. It's just like, do we have the actual wet signature of everyone? I don't think we do, but
Yeah.
do we have each CUP? We have the CUP. It's just
Yeah, that's what we
question
need.
collecting.
That's what we need.
So, I'll go through that process.
That's
We are,
good. Thank you.
starting discussions with, Glendale about terms of a,
Yep.
credit enhancement.
Oh.
I said, we're pretty sure we wanna do regardless of whether, but the credit enhancement is the part where you, give them taxes back.
That's
Right.
adding on.
And I would like to be able to see the conditional use permit, because there's some details in there.
That's not in there?
Well, I found drawings over there the other day, but I don't know where to look in there, looking around and stuff, so.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work with Dawn to,
Yeah.
organize things a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that I see it working with the planning board files is if they're under lock and key. Like there was a period of time where they were under lock and key until maybe 2012, 2013, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And then that's when somebody made the decision that they should not be locked. So we were told not to lock them anymore. I don't know who made the decision, like I just remember being told, we can't lock them, they have to be open, and anybody can go into them that wants to go into them. And so it, like a few years later, they were very messy, and like, I just said, I'm not gonna deal with them. Like, if they're gonna be unlocked, there's no way to know who's doing what.
Yeah, well, there's an issue in that the select board and, Don now for the code enforcement officer is required to have an idea what's in them.
Yeah.
If you want them to enforce them, it's hard to do that, it's hard to really understand them quite often because they're complex, but if there isn't a copy available for the selectman and the code enforcement officer, then they need to have access to it through, the key or whatever, but we need to have access to it. understand.
That's not questioned at all.
Yeah, no, I don't question that at all. It was, we were told we had to keep it unlocked for the public.
Oh, I don't know about that, but.
Well, no, I'm just saying, that's what we were told. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but.
Yes, I
like-
do.
Like, we were told, we cannot lock it, and it has to be open, and, you know, I think we even tried to give Wes a key at one point, and whoever it was said, no, it can't be locked. And so, I just washed my hands of the whole thing.
I don't remember that, but I do remember,
You were the selectman.
I don't think you were a
I
selectman.
was a selectman when we tried to put the thumb on Mayetta,
Yeah.
and finding what it was we were supposed to be enforcing was darn hard, because.
And that's
So
what
my
we're
head
saying
is
happens
Yeah.
when the file is open to any Tom, Dick, or Harry, or Jane who comes
Yeah.
in.
Like,
Is it
people take
becomes
stuff out and put it on the desk, and then.
And then somebody puts it away, and it's
Yeah.
over there,
Yeah,
and.
no, but as I say, is we need to find a way, if you're gonna lock it up, to make the files available some other way to people in the town.
If we can lock it, I'll spend the time to put it together in an understandable way.
Yeah.
But if it's not gonna be locked, there's no reason to do it, because it's just gonna get lost. I mean, there's so many files that aren't there. When I started on the planning board, it was like literally 4 of these cabinets. And then now it's like 1.
So one of the problems, Wes, did clean it up and threw away what he considered the duplicates. Maybe?
Right, but if we can lock it up, I'll help spend the time and putting it back together. Cause there's, for major portions of times, there's electronic copies of stuff.
I think the public has a right to see records, but they have to make an appointment for somebody that's authorized to show them into the drawers. I don't think they can rifle through them. They can ask for a document, and either myself or on the planning board or Robin or.
You're correct, that they are public documents, and people can come in and ask for them, either through an Freedom of Information Act request, or they just come in and the guy will give them what they want. You know,
So,
it's
one
not
of the
going
things
through
that
process,
used
but they
to
are
happen.
public.
They can't rifle through the drawers.
No.
They just have to ask.
It used to be, before we had so much on the web, that real estate people would come in, and they would grab the files, and they'd walk out. And Deb was in here alone, she didn't have help all the time, and now she says, she tells me, because I'm starting the process of trying to figure this out. She says if they want any files, she comes in and gets them. So she has to be part of the conversation. Yes, they should be available to the public. That's why we keep the records. But under a controlled situation.
But the people who do have access to them need to be people who understand the importance of the document. And that has not always been the case. In my tenure, I mean,
It's true.
I've been on the
agree.
board I've only been on the board for
15, 20 years.
uh,
Just a kid on the board. You'll learn after a little while, David.
I think 19 years, I think it was 2003 or 2004.
We'll give you your key back.
Yeah.
You just turned it in a week
I
ago.
did, didn't I? Yeah, I did, didn't I? I did. Okay, well, is there an immediate need, or is this a generalized need?
It's a generalized, immediate need.
Okay.
There are particular files that we'd like to have copies of.
Why don't you tell me what those are, because that would be easier for me to focus.
Well, I mean, when we come in, it's the larger files that have been culled and put in weird places and lost track of.
Okay.
And maybe they're in the drawers.
Like the Marietta stuff? And
Like subdivisions and stuff like that.
Okay.
And gravel pits and anything that went to more than that thick.
Yeah.
Because rather than make them part of the system, they said, oh, we'll just put that over here.
Yeah, okay. Alright,
I'm happy to help with that.
perfect.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Wonderful, thank you.
And we have to get some of the stuff scanned in, because once it's electronic, we know we're not gonna lose it.
And that might be the way to provide, if we have it all scanned in, we can provide public access by saying, here, sit at this computer and, you know, or we'll email it to you or whatever.
Yeah, cause we have, I know we were adjourned, but we have, I have, and I gave out discs of it before.
Yep.
I'm just seeing how far it goes. So, I have copies of the CUPs through 2016.
Well, that's great.
So I could probably, electronically, I could probably get to 2020.
Because Don needs them, he wants to enforce what we've done, and he's saying, where's the CUP?
Right. It should be in the file, but you're saying it's not.
So we've
I
got,
was asked, I forget, maybe do, about the situation on 107 where the temporary road went in and they were supposed to reseed it.
Right.
I didn't know anything about that because it's not in any files that I would have access to.
Right, and so that's,
We're going to come up with a way that if there's a CUP that requires something like that, I put it in the folder, or at least a reference to where it could be found.
yeah.
So that we can make sure that those things are done the way they were agreed to be done.
Yeah, makes sense. And that was, I wasn't here when we did that one. So Matt was secretary, Matt was chair.
Matt or Don, I think maybe it was Don, I'm not sure.
Remember?
No, it was Matt,
No,
it was Matt.
I think Matt was.
I have,
secretary at the time.
I have all the records since I've been on board electronically,
Great,
so,
Yeah.
I mean, that's 6 months.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah, so
I-
clearly, yeah.
I reported a bunch of the stuff when we were doing those, but unfortunately, I don't have any records in my house on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
My personal computer doesn't have records of those minutes either.
okay. So, like for that, what we need to do is we need to look at the minutes, figure out who the secretary was, ask them if they have a copy if it's not in here.
Right. But going forward, we're trying to come up with a way that makes it a whole lot easier.
Well, I think what it looks like we wanna put everything on electronics. So we'd have a hard copy here, maybe in a locked file cabinet,
Right,
and have as many, you know, electronic records as you wanna make.
right.
And make that the way the public gets access. I mean, I go back to when public access information was a microfiche. You had to, you know?
Down in a musty basement.
Yeah, exactly.
So the property records are the same way, and they need to be organized a whole lot better and spaced out a bit, because a lot of those folders are stuck in there,
Yeah,
and they don't always go back in the right spot. We've
Right.
had issues with code enforcement giving a lot number, and then the assessors give a different one when they come through, and as a result, it's hard to know what they get.
yeah.
And we're trying to work on that end of it as well. If we pull together, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah.
I mean, we go through this like once every 7 years. Where there's like, where is everything? We get it all together, and then it falls apart for a couple of years. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the process.
That's why you had to prod me so many times to get me to do anything, because it's like, I've been here before.
The other thing that would be good is to give you a drawing file.
Yeah, flat file would probably be
Flat
helpful.
file for drawings.
Yeah.
I mean, rolling them up and stuffing them in a cardboard box is one of the store, but it's very hard to read them after they've been there for a few years.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
So if
the
you
other
make
thing-
drawings drawing files where you lay them out flat, you know, you can get several.
The other thing is that if we had a way to reproduce the drawings, and keep them electronically.
Yeah, that takes, if you can get them submitted to you.
Yeah,
electronically, that would be good.
recently, we've asked for all submissions electronically as well.
Electronically, then we could keep the, we would have the maps.
Yeah.
Yeah, for like all the solar panel places, we have almost everything on electronically.
But the older ones, it's a bit of an hassle to digitize those.
Yeah.
We need a scanner somewhere.
Or you send them someplace.
Or send them out.
Yeah, that's usually what most people do.
So the lawyer for the dog kennel, people didn't come?
So, yeah, they just, after that flurry of activity, and we had to schedule an extra meeting and everything else, they haven't gone to Don, and they haven't come to me, and so they weren't on the agenda. And if they had come tonight, I would have said, I'm sorry, we can't consider you because there's a condition that the selectmen put on their consideration that the code enforcement officer go and inspect the property to see if there are dogs there. He hasn't been asked by them to do that. He's got to report to the selectmen, and my feeling is I would have to know that the selectmen had accepted his report. So, I mean, it doesn't happen like, oh, Don, why don't you just hop in your car and go check now, you know? I think it's like, it's a more formal, it takes a week to get this process done, at least.
Well, it can't be done an hour before planning board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And expect us to drop everything and do what, or you
So-
drop everything.
So what our method of operation is right now, David established that we would have to, have, anybody who wanted to appear before the board would have to get on the agenda by close of business Monday. So, I'm a little lazy, I, you know, rather than calling Don at, you know, 4:01 or 5:01 or something on Mondays, I wait Tuesday night, he goes to selectmen's meeting, I go to selectmen's meeting, I lean over in my chair and they say, what do we got? You know, and so then Wednesday morning I make up the agenda and, Robin gets it out, and I'm gonna try to get it out to everybody. So you'll have an idea that you should know about the subdivision ordinance this time, or, you know, whatever it is, yeah.
I was like, oh, there's gonna be some excitement about that.
All right, we good to go?
We're good to go. Thank you very much, David.
Yeah.
Appreciated your help tonight.
I would love to.